like to introduce Mr. Clark Wagner, who knows Mr. McGee pretty well. Let him talk to you a minute.
Okay, good afternoon. I guess I had a small part in bringing this about having the late Fibber McGee, as we who knew him, closely. He was known in Mulberry. Walter Gene, the various people had known him over the years. But he was definitely one of the more interesting people that I've known in my lifetime. He had a strong sense of community and service to the community. Of course, he loved his family and loved his friends and neighbors and everything. And he had about a 14-year period of service here with the old Mulberry Utility District in the late 70s up until about the time, early 90s, when this utility district was merged into the present Lincoln County Board of Public Utilities. Fibber had a long period of service, of which I was reminded this morning when I got called to a fire with the volunteer fire department. And he was always on call, and he gave of himself unstintingly, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of many other people who knew him. And he did a lot of things for a lot of people over a period of time that you'll never hear about. But as I said earlier, he had a great sense of community and of service. And I thought, and I think some others thought, that it was very fitting that he'd be remembered in this way because of his long association here with the Water Utility District. I noticed that I was scheduled here to give a brief history of the utility district. I had mentioned to Lisa Reed that I was thinking of writing one based on the records, though we have some of the records of the utility district. It was formed about 1966, and with the help of certain local political figures, and I would remember the late Gregor Motlow up in Moore County, and with a lot of work on the part of a lot of citizens during that period, it was organized. Loan and grant money was secured with the federal government, and the original tank was built up here. It's just down the hill from where we are now, and the water mains were installed, and the service went in there in the mid-1960s. We were very fortunate up here to have the water. So this was traditionally a dry area, very little groundwater that was reliable, and a lot of people who never had a reliable source of water before came to have water from that time to the present. We had a lot of directors serve over a period of time. Hardy Farrell, who is present today, was a director for a period of time. I served toward the end myself, and a lot of other people put in a lot of time and effort to keep the utility district going. Eventually, probably due to pressures of regulatory requirements, we sought a merger about 10 years ago with the county water system, and that was approved, and the old Mulberry Utility District as a separate entity ceased to exist, but it still exists because the papers, the pipes and everything are still here, the water's still flowing through there. Interestingly enough, Fibber's son Jason here now works for the Fayetteville City Water Department, and he's the fellow who is responsible for the treatment of the water that comes in from the river intake and the quality of the water that goes out through the system, and since we have a contract to buy from them, it still comes right through here. So there's that attachment to the family to this day and for many years to come, I would suspect. So that's about, to make it short, I think we've touched on the high points here. And I would say again, let us remember Fibber, because he gave a lot of his life during that time. No matter what, he was on call all the time. Whatever had to be done, he did. And in the broader sense, that's how he faced his obligations to his community and to his friends and neighbors. And let us remember him such. Thank you.
I knew Mr. Fibber I was on the fire department for 15 years. That's how I met Mr. Fibber. I didn't never really meet him through the water system. My dad was on this water board before me. He was on it till he died. And I have a tape at home where Mr. Fibber and the board were discussing that merger that you were talking about. All right, this time I'd like to turn this over to our county executive, Mr. Jerry Mansfield, and my former history teacher in another life.
I guarantee you Doc doesn't know a whole lot about history. Billy told me to wear a cap, and out of respect I felt like I had to take it off to Fibber. But then he reminded me that my head was going to shine like a billiard ball out here in the sun. But Fibber would understand that, and it's out of respect that I will take it off at this time. On behalf of all the members of the Lane County Commission, both current and past, that have dealt with Mr. Fibber, I'm here to express my appreciation for the lifetime that he spent in this community trying to make it better. You mentioned a while ago that it's only fitting to name this tank for him. I think of no other individual that could be dedicated to that would epitomize Mulberry. Footsteps that are made by individuals like him, though sometimes are in difficult and hard ground, and sometimes very rocky ground, if they weren't there first, it would have been impossible for the county system to have followed suit. I have known, as they said a while ago, that he had been in the water system for a long time, but been a volunteer fireman for nearly that same length of time, if not longer. Is that right, Jason? You got to have one thing to get the other. You couldn't have had a fire department if you hadn't had a water system. And you couldn't have had a community gathering place, a voting place, and all those ingredients that hold a community together. Fibber epitomized holding a community together, and we need to continue to follow in his footsteps. And it is an honor to be here today and be present in the dedication of this tank on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very nice, Mr. Mansfield. Mr. Gene Gross, I'd like to introduce him now at this time to present the plaques.
I guess the first thing I'd have to say is I am not a speech maker, and everyone here knows that. But I've been guilty of being told that I was next to the contrariest man in Lincoln County. And the other one is sitting right back there beside of Mr. Wiley, they said. I just know what they said. I don't know the gentleman. But I've been told that, so I think he and I would run a close race. From what I know. They got me up here for one thing, and I'm going to do something else first. I want to say thank you to the employees of the Lincoln County Board of Public Utilities. We say this thing is made possible by people like Jerry and the commissioners and the board. Yes, it may be. But if you didn't have the employees of the water system, you definitely wouldn't need this tank. Well, who comes to you at night when you blow a line? Billy doesn't. I don't. No. They do. That's exactly who comes to you, and you need to remember that. And when you're talking about the ones in the field, that's the men. But you do not want to leave the ladies out in the office. They do one swell job. And I doubt if Billy'd be any good if it wasn't for them. For I've seen too many mistakes he make, and they cover them up and fix them up. So I think without them, he would be in a hurt. And I know some other fellows would too, like me, and Wade and others on the board. But we want to thank them for that. And as far as what we're up here for today, on Mr. Walter Eugene Fibber McGee, as I knew him. I didn't just come up here to talk about him, for he has made his speech. He was one of my dear friends, and I never will forget that. And it's hard to stand up here and talk about somebody that I thought as much of as I did Fibber. And I won't never forget that. But you look around and you see what he left behind. A lovely wife and 2 children. And when I say that, I'm saying from the bottom of my heart that that is true. That's what he left. And everyone has said what Fibber did, and every word of that is true. He was the most liberal guy you ever saw. He fixed commodes, he fixed faucets, he fixed Frigidaires, he fixed anything that come along that he could do for someone. And you don't forget a person like that. So with all that said, I would like to have Miss Beverly, would you come forward? I would like to ask you to say something, but I don't know if you want to or not. Do you?
I'm unaccustoed to speaking before a crowd.
Well, you're right against one that is too.
But
So we make a good pair.
on behalf of my husband and my family, I would like to say thank you for remembering him in this way. And I'm sure that he would be proud and somewhat maybe embarrassed to think that that you did this in memory of him. But I know he did a lot for Mulberry Utility, and as long as he was able, he was doing something for someone. And on behalf of all of us, I thank you.
Thank you, Miss Beverly. I don't think I've got the words. I don't have the words to say for Fibber what needs to be said, and she has said it as well as anyone else could have. But at this time, we would like to present you this plaque. And do you want to read it? You want me to read it? Or?
You can go ahead.
It says, Lincoln County Board of Public Utility, new Mulberry tank completed in 2002. Dedicated this the 17th day of April 2002 in memory of Walter Gene McGee for his many years of service to the Mulberry Utility District. We take great pleasure in presenting you with this plaque.
Thank you. I didn't know we were getting a plaque.
Well,
We came just for the tank dedication. I didn't know there was a plaque too.
there is, and
Oh, that's so nice. We thank you.
you don't owe us any peach cobbler or blackberry cobbler of any kind.
Right. Hardy Farrell's the only one that says that.
Blackberry cobbler.
Thank you.
He hasn't got enough money to buy one, so you'll have to make him one.
Go to the bank for a loan.
We have another one here, is a little different than the one you have there, but we wanted you to have this too. And it says, Walter Gene McGee, Water Storage Tank, 343 Lynchburg Highway. Where tank can be dedicated to Walter Gene McGee. Fibber, as I like to keep calling him Fibber. I don't know why they want the Walter Gene. I didn't know that.
He was always doing something for someone else, but he didn't ask much of other people. So I don't know what he would say today.
She has done a tremendous job and under these conditions, and we want to say thank you very, very much.
We'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I apologize that I'm used to talking to kids, 7th graders, so I'm not used to talking to adults. I'd like to this time introduce Mr. Wiley. He's going to make a few closing comments. So Mr. Wiley, Mr. Billy Joe Wiley.
Thank you, Doc. I wouldn't even do this. Doc said he was my boss, and if I didn't, I wouldn't get a raise next year. So I told him I'll climb that tank if he wants to, talking like that. But we do want to thank, we've got a special guest with us here today, and as we were thinking about putting this event on, we wanted to sort of capture it on tape. And
at the last minute, sort of, I called Mr. Hilton Sullivan. I don't know how many of y'all, probably a lot of y'all know him. He was raised just sort of over the hill here a little ways, but he has had experience in doing videotapes, but it turned out his machine had gone to the bad. So anyway, he's got connections at Federal Electric System, a good friend of Pete James, and Pete loaned him their contraption there, and Hilton estimates it's probably worth over $10,000. But what we're going to do, if Hilton has punched the right buttons, and I don't know whether he did or not, he don't know whether he did or not, but if he did, he's going to take it at the end of the day to Mr. Pete James at FES, and he's going to run some copies, and we'll be, Talisa or somebody will be calling y'all to let you have those. And I want to thank, today we've got Miss Edie here and Talisa Reed, and did a lot of work coordinating and doing this, putting it on. Got Mr. John Amos, it was helping with the parking. I think we've got the site probably from what it was a year ago to now with the road and all. If you think it maybe is a little rough now, if you'd have seen it a little over a year ago, there's been a whole lot of work done, and that we hope that the McGee family is proud of what has been done here. I'm proud myself, and I'm thankful that Clark Wagner, for, as he said, suggesting to the board that this tank be memorialized in honor of Mr. McGee. I don't think we could have chosen anyone that would have been more appropriate. We've got a lot of guests here. We've got the county attorney, Mr. Sims. Mr. Sims, would you raise your hand? Aside of him, we've got Mr. Bob Ramsey, who was a consultant engineer for James C. Haley, that designed this tank and coordinated the building of it. We've got our accountant. We don't go very far without our lawyer and our accountant. We've got our accountant, Mr. David Kidd. David, would you raise your hand? I think most of them. You live up in this part of the country, don't you? How far do you live from here? Okay, about a mile. Have you been able to tell any difference in the pressure at your house of the water?
Yeah, I can. I tell a difference.
Well, that's good. That's good. It's supposed to kick the pressure about 10 psi is what, Bob, isn't that what you said it was supposed to do? Okay. If anyone else, Doc, do you want me to turn it back to you, or? No. On behalf of the board of Lincoln County Board of Public Utilities, I want to thank y'all again for being a part of our ceremony here today, and we've got some outstanding refreshments. I had the ladies in the office cook all night long, and you can sort of judge what kind of cooks they are based on how it tastes. Thank you.